It's no surprise to say that Tatsuki Fujimoto's Chainsaw Man and Gigi Akutame's Jujutsu Kaisen are somewhat inspirationally intertwined, with Fujimoto both drawing characters from Jujutsu Kaisen and joking in an interview about how Chainsaw Man is just a copy of Jujutsu Kaisen among other works, along with Akutami claiming that Fujimoto is their favorite mangaka of all time and that their suggestions help push Jujutsu Kaisen to the next level. And with that, each series has their own absolute power ceiling respectfully. With Chainsaw Man, you have Makima, where Jujutsu Kaisen has Satoru Gojo. So that brings up an interesting question. If Gojo and Makima were to fight, who would win? So it should be pretty obvious, but this video will contain spoilers for both series up to their most recent story arcs as of this video's release, so you have been warned. Now, Makima vs. Gojo is definitely an interesting what-if fight, as not only are both extremely powerful and unique in different ways, but both sides have people who will claim that it's a complete blowout in favor of their respective character. So, I'll be going over which each side has to offer to make an accurate assessment of who would actually come out on top. But before we get into that, we should clarify some general rules to make the crossover nature of this fight a bit easier. First, we'll start with grabbing each character from their respective peaks, since if we went with one or the other, Gojo would be around 7 when Makima was still around, and, well, Makima isn't around to meet Gojo at his peak. But along with that, we also have to make the power system in both series essentially the same thing with different names, because they are actually kind of similar on a fundamental standpoint, being both based on negative energy of people focused into a certain place or concept to give it strength. So with that understood, let's run through what both parties can do. And you know what they say, ladies first is polite. And that's why we're starting with Gojo, because he's a rude dude. Satoru Gojo can be best described as a force of chaos, and is known as the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer in the world. His mere existence shook the foundation of sorcerer society, and this was in part due to him being born with a rare trait called the Six Eyes. These give the user enhanced perception, be it both physical vision or cursed energy perception as well, being able to identify any curse technique they perceive. But it also gifts the user with immense brain processing power, being not only able to process massive amounts of information in a matter of seconds, but also the Six Eyes automatically processes the user's own curse energy efficiency. So much so that the curse energy spent when they use their techniques is infinitesimally close to 0. Due to this, a proper Six Eyes user will never run out of curse energy. But the most important part about the Six Eyes is that its precision and processing power also sharpens the user's own innate technique, as it allows them to precisely manipulate curse energy on an atomic level, which when paired with Gojo's family's own innate curse technique, this being Limitless, creates an immensely powerful individual, as Limitless is a technique which allows the user to manipulate and distort space freely in order to bring forth the concept of infinity into reality. Which leads me to Infinity, the neutral state of Limitless, which allows the user to simply convert the finite space between them and someone else into an infinite one. Basically, that means that nothing can hit Gojo unless he specifically allows it to hit him. On top of this, the Six Eyes can be used in tandem with Limitless to automatically read incoming danger and judge it based off of its mass, speed, and shape, among other factors, along with automatically preventing it from hitting Gojo if it is too dangerous. On top of all of that, after his brush with death, Gojo awakened to the reverse curse technique, which when mixed together with all of his other techniques basically allows him to run Infinity automatically 24/7. Then you factor in the other forms that Infinity can take, starting with Blue, in which Gojo amplifies his Limitless curse technique with negative curse energy to create a void or vacuum in reality, which in turn the universe is forced to correct, creating some sort of magnetic attraction-like effect, pulling his specific targets towards the amplified point. Similar in nature actually to the Hand from Diamond Is Not Crash, though those hit by it directly are more bent and twisted rather than erased outright, unless you are hit with Gojo's perfected Blue, this being the maximum variant, which simply allows Gojo to create a movable miniature black hole. But beyond Blue, Gojo also possesses the capabilities of Red, which, to put it simply, if Blue is attraction, then Red is repulsion. How Red works is it creates a sudden immense explosive force which outputs about double the force of Blue. As to create it, the user must multiply the negative energy they'd normally use by negative energy to create positive energy, resulting in the Karma Ball. Wait, no, not that one. Also, given its nature as more of an explosive force, when you're hit with red, instead of imploding like with blue, you're launched away with reckless abandon. But beyond this, Gojo has also learned that red and blue can be used simultaneously, colliding both attraction and repulsion on an infinite level, which results in a hollow purple. This essentially creates a mass of reality-deleting energy, which instantaneously erases anything and everything it touches without exception. Hollow Purple is Gojo's big move, and while other people in the Gojo clan know it, Satoru Gojo is the only person who can do it effectively because of the 6 eyes. Then of course you have Gojo's innate domain, which can be expanded into something called the Unlimited Void, which creates a space separate from reality that causes victims to instantaneously receive every kind of stimuli and information endlessly all at once, causing their thought process to slow and immobilizing them physically. Gojo essentially gifts his victims with all the knowledge in the universe, but without any means of grasping it. Essentially, they can't do anything, right down to even retain any of the information that they were given once pulled out. Beyond this, Gojo also has been shown to master long-range teleportation and flying. It's also stated that he can essentially do anything that he wants or sets his mind to, but he doesn't because he'd be too good at it. Also, Gojo has very little respect for authority, and while he tries to use his powers for good and reduce the amount of unnecessary casualties, he's been through enough hard times as a sorcerer that human lives aren't exactly the best bargaining chip when fighting against him. And speaking of someone who doesn't fully value human lives, let's talk about Makima. Makima is a member of the Public Safety Devil Hunters Squad and acting leader of their special division. She is also the Control Devil, which in turn gives her all the abilities and powers of a devil, like blood consumption-based regeneration, enhanced physical traits such as super strength and super speed, along with her own special unique devil ability, this being absolute control. Makima is essentially the embodiment of the fear of control. She can control any being who she believes to be inferior to her without issue, and she can take over them by simply issuing them a command. Once under her control, she can force them to make devil contracts with her. This takes the form of an ethereal chain that connects directly to Makima, and once she dominates you, you lose all memory of what Makima did to you. Absolute control works on humans, animals, devils, fiends, and even hybrids, making no one safe from Makima's orders. Along with this, while under Makima's control, she can draw from the powers of those connected to her. This includes any devils who have been contracted with humans that she is contracted with. Due to this, she can combine any number of abilities that she has contracted over the years. Even being dead doesn't prevent Makima from using your abilities. Here are just a few examples of the things that she can do. Beyond absolute control, it seems like she can also manifest physical pressure that can cause a crushing sensation on a victim just by staring at them. It can also completely crush the target in mere moments, though this process seems to require a higher elevation to achieve and a human sacrifice that connects them to the person. Though she can focus all this intense force into a single blast attack that she shoots out her finger. And with only 4 shots, these blasts were strong enough to send someone to space. It can also kill the average person in a single blast. Though the part that makes Makima's absolute control so terrifying is that at some point she used it on the Prime Minister of Japan to force him into a contract that essentially gave her control over every Japanese citizen at the time. This essentially allows Makima to transfer all fatal damage that she would receive to an appropriate illness or ailment affecting a random citizen in Japan. She can also seemingly transfer any of her necessities or ailments as well, allowing her to drink as much alcohol as she wants without getting drunk, or regenerate without needing blood. She can also tap into the hearing of lower life forms to eavesdrop on conversations remotely, allowing her to never be out of the loop on secrets. Beyond this, she can also seemingly manipulate the people that she is controlling and turn them into loyal servants that will defend her without a second thought. Beyond that, like Gojo, she also possesses some long-range teleportation options, as she can appear within something that she is controlling at the time, be it either a mischief of rats, which, side note, that's what a group of rats is called, isn't that awesome? Also, a whole devil that she's controlling. Though, more importantly, this teleportation allows her to travel between worlds, as she was able to freely enter Hell with it. So yeah, honestly, these two as a matchup is essentially the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. Though unfortunately for Makima, even with her army of hybrids and insane abilities, I believe Gojo still comes out on top, and here's why. Firstly, I'll address Makima's army of hybrids. I don't think they matter all that much, but I'm addressing them anyways. Gojo wins. We've seen him take on similar odds without any sign of fatigue. So yeah, beyond that, Makima doesn't exactly have an out for Gojo's infinite, which I mind you, he can keep up automatically. And I even factored in the possibility of Angel's weapons, but Gojo isn't exactly making himself intangible. He's essentially stopping things from approaching him, so Angel's swords would have no effect. Even Makima's combination attack of Punishment Snake Zombie armed with Angel Swords can't reach Gojo. As we see inside the prison realm, even a group surrounding him is no threat. Along with this, Makima's absolute control wouldn't work on Gojo. As we know, his mere presence can be felt by everyone around him. He is someone who literally changed the foundation of the world when he was born. Makima wouldn't consider herself superior to that, especially given her infatuation with beings like the Chainsaw Man. Also, the Control Devil's ability is shown to be overpowered by a sense of confidence or a strong emotion. Gojo is literally too full of himself to feel submissive. So the only thing that she actually has is her contract with the Prime Minister, which does bind Gojo's life to hers. Though it is unclear how exactly it works, as we don't even know if Makima could choose to inflict ailments onto him specifically. And also, Gojo's Six Eyes would be able to sniff this out, and possibly, either through reverse curse technique or hollow purple, probably erase the connection. So, offensively, Makima can't harm him. But does that mean Gojo can defeat her in return? As she also has some good counters to his abilities as well. Firstly, Gojo can't kill her in any practical way, as her contract would just have the parts regrow or return to her, so red and blue are essentially worthless for the most part. Along with this, Limitless Void could also be countered if Makima isn't fully cut off from the outside world, as she could use her teleportation, which relies on an outside party accepting and basically doing all the work for her, so she could possibly escape the domain. But that is also mostly a gamble on her part, as she could be severed from the outside world completely when inside the Limitless Void. Also, her mind could be flooded with endless information and stimuli, making it impossible for her to even contact someone before Gojo could attack her. Also, it should be stated that while inside the Limitless Void, Gojo is immune to its effects. So even if we do take into account that Gojo is still connected to Makima via the chain and the contract with the Prime Minister, this wouldn't result in the same thing that happened to Santa Claus and Cosmos' Halloween beam. In fact, it may cripple the entirety of Japan except for Satoru Gojo. But sadly, what sinks Makima's invincibility is the hollow purple technique, as it doesn't do damage, but more so erases the existence of what it hits. So, Makima would be completely deleted by an attack like this. In fact, it's actually the type of death she'd probably be happy with as well. Along with this, Makima is shown to be able to die, even with her contract active, as Denji was able to nullify the ability by having Power's Blood slow her regeneration factor. This is something Gojo could likely do with his mastery over curse energy. So, for better or for worse, Gojo takes this fight. Except for one thing that I haven't talked about. This being mostly hypothetical, but Makima's control power over the dead could actually be what swings this fight into her favor, as Satoru Gojo's abilities are completely unmatched in his time. His existence is preordained by fate, but a similarly powerful figure existed roughly 100 years before Gojo. So if Makima could revive that person, she could have access to the Six Eyes and the Limitless technique of the Gojo family, which could help her counter Gojo's abilities. Or she could, if not for one simple rule about the Six Eyes. Only one pair of Six Eyes can exist at a time. Which, I remind you, the Six Eyes are necessary to make Limitless useful. So in this situation, even if she had Limitless in her possession, she could revive all of the dead Gojo family. Satoru Gojo wins by his sheer being born better. I should also address the prison room plan that actually ended up sealing Satoru Gojo so far. This only worked due to some very specific circumstances, and I don't believe Makima could replicate them. The prison realm itself isn't exactly all that strong, as Gojo is stated to be able to break out of it at some point. It'll just take him a long while. So if Makima was able to steal Gojo, it would only really be preventing the inevitable. But I should address it because I know people will bring it up. I should also address the Black Rope, which is a rare African tribe's curse item, which has the ability to disrupt curse techniques, and this rope actually allowed Miguel, a mercenary Gojo was fighting, to actually hit him, though the rope itself was eventually destroyed, and to recreate the rope takes literal decades, and it's unknown how the process is even handled. So, while it might be possible for Makima to get her hands on the rope, it's both only really useful in hand-to-hand combat, and doesn't last very long. And in the same category, I should also mention curse amplification. That doesn't really work either, as even if we accept that Makima can do it, given that she's a devil and I'm treating devils kinda like curse spirits here, Gojo could simply counter this by amping up his own curse energy. So these outs are essentially dead ends for Makima. But, again, I should mention them nonetheless. At the end of the day, Gojo and Makima are just supremely powerful beings who hate the state of the world that they live in. And honestly, if they were to interact, they'd be more likely to kill their higher-ups and team up with each other than they would be to fight. So how did you feel about this outcome? Did I miss anything? With how complex these two abilities are, I probably missed something. So feel free to tell me down below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. Every little bit helps support this channel and keeps it flowing as smoothly as it does. And if you want to awaken to your own sex eyes, you can do so by buying a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com. That is in order.